Welcome to Pathways to Greatness, where we explore the journeys of exceptional individuals who have achieved remarkable success in their fields. Whether you're an aspiring athlete, a business leader, or simply someone striving to reach your full potential, this podcast is your guide to unlocking the greatness within you. Join us as we dive into inspiring stories, practical strategies, and the mindset shifts that can transform your path to greatness. Let's embark on this journey together. Hey, welcome to Pathways to Greatness podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Forrester, and we have another solo episode, and this one is Don't Provoke, Encourage. So as we go through this lesson, understand this is a topic that has challenged me primarily because I understand the concept, but there's a lot that depends on the other person that's outside of our control. At the same time, as we go through this lesson, you'll start to see what part you can play in impacting how the other person responds. It's really cool. I've been thinking about this particular topic for a very long time, and I finally just decided to dig into it, figure some more things out, and then use my trusted friend ChatGPT to help pull some things together that will help. And it's been extremely helpful. So especially the timing of it is impeccable. I will apologize. The cat keeps coming up on the desk. It's great. It's wonderful. She's hilarious, but it's also distracting at the same time. All right. So the topic is don't provoke, encourage. And so this is something when you look at it in a lens, and I know I'm building this thing up a lot more than I normally do because I want you to hear me and hopefully be on the edge of your seat of what is this topic about. And at the same time, I want you to look at it through a lens, not just as a parent, but as a coach, as an adult, and not just in the context that you'll hear this topic about of a parent-child relationship. This should be in all of our relationships, but it all comes down to initially the parent-child relationship, because to me, being a follower of Jesus is a simple yet challenging thing that we're challenged every day. The next part is being a spouse, a husband, a wife, whatever you may be. It's tough. It's not easy. It's an everyday decision of what you want to do. There are days that are easier than others and days that are harder than others, but it's well worth the work and it's well worth the effort. The third thing is being a parent. And what's interesting about both of those things, about being a parent and being a spouse, is they say that there's no rule book. There's no instruction manual. There is. It's called the Bible. And I haven't done a good enough job on a regular basis going to the Bible when I'm faced with good things or bad things. And I didn't go to the Bible enough early in my marriage and early as a parent as I should, because I know that if I would have, it would have helped tremendously lay the foundation of the groundwork that would carry out throughout my marriage and being a parent, both of which are infinity, and I never want them to end. And so understanding both of those things, you also, even though I wish I would have started earlier, there's no time like the present. And because you're going to be faced with certain situations every single day, regardless of if you've been married 6 months or 6 years or 60 years, you're faced with things every day. And you can trust in the Lord that He will help you through that. Same thing with parenting. And we have to understand that that parent-child relationship lasts forever. It lasts as long as I'm alive, and it lasts as long as they're alive, because however we interact now, whether I'm here or not, will carry through my kids' life. And then they will pass things down, good and bad, just like I did. And so it's important. It's a very important role that we have to take seriously. We can't wing it. And far too often in our society, we wing it as parents. We wing it as fathers. We just try to, well, this is what I saw. And in so many cases, sometimes we don't see the right example. For me, for instance, My dad passed away when I was 18 years old. And so I don't have an example from 18 on. And really, the last 8 months of his life weren't super productive because he was going through chemotherapy and he was sick and just a number of things. And so for me, I have to tap into one, things of the past that I saw, because he did lay a fantastic groundwork. And my mother laid and continues to lay great examples, a great resource for me when I'm encountering situations. The other part is finding fatherly mentors. And I've aligned myself with several that have kids older than mine, so I'm able to tap into them. And then there's some that are so godly and so filled with godly wisdom that even though their kids are younger than mine, they can provide insight, biblical insight that will help me. And the other thing that I thought of last night is the conversation that me and the other dad who has younger kids, this may not as much be for me, but helping him later in life as his kids get older and go, oh, you know what? I remember Jeff called me with this exact issue, and here's how I handled it. Because we can forget the advice we give others when it's important to give to ourselves. Okay, I've just talked for 6 minutes about all that, and I hope that this lays a little bit of a groundwork and also can help you understand of where I'm at, of just desiring to do the right thing. I just want to be the best parent that I can and the best husband that I can be, and ultimately the best Christian. And I truly believe is if you focus on the Christian part first, or the follower of Jesus, we don't even have to have the label of Christian, a follower of Jesus first, and you lock into that, those other two things, they will naturally fall into place. Doesn't mean that they're going to be easy, but you have your eyes set on the right thing. You also have the right path and direction that you need to follow. So if nothing else comes from this podcast, this moment right here is put Jesus first, hands down. Everything else will fall into place as it should if he's first. If he is not first, nothing else will fall into place. It may seem that it will, but it is going to go left or right rather quickly. I'm proof of it. Okay, so don't provoke, encourage. So this core verse is Ephesians 6:4. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. So what's hard for me, and it has been until I started this lesson, is provoking your children to anger. Well, when you discipline someone, many times they're angry at you. And it's the anger is misplaced emotion, if that makes sense. It's typically embarrassment. Not only are they embarrassed for what they did and that they got caught, it's also embarrassment of letting you down, letting someone else down. If it's a child parent relationship, it's, well, I've let my parent down. If it's a husband wife relationship, I've let my spouse down, so on and so forth. It could be, manager, employee. You just don't, any of these things fall into place. And that's why we're going to look at it in the lens of being a parent. But this also plays out into you versus your neighbor, your friend, another human being, is that we should not provoke, but encourage. So do not provoke to anger, avoid unnecessary harshness, favoritism, or comparison. So that's where, when I said earlier that we can't control how the other person responds, this is where we can set the table correctly if we are not being overly harsh, not playing favoritism, and not having comparison. And so that's where, when you encounter a situation, pray. It's going to be challenging. If you feel emotion, if you feel anger, frustration, hurt, you've got to get that stuff taken care of before you approach the situation, because you lashing out at the other person is not going to help the situation at all. So to me, that's when it says, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, is you have to be calm. You have to be Christ-like. When you look at the examples that Christ laid out for us in the Bible, is he was calm, cool, and collected. when he needed to be, because he needed the other person to hear the message and feel the message and be open to receive the message and the instruction that he's providing. And so we can avoid those. So Colossians 3:21, fathers, do not embitter your children or they will become discouraged. Bring them up. Parenting is nurturing, not controlling. This is hard. As a parent, I often want to control a situation. As a human being, I want to control the situation that I'm in. What we have to figure out, and I feel that my generation has gotten this relatively wrong, is there's more control, less nurture. And it's we don't want our kids to fail, so we don't let them try anything. We'll just do it. What's the ad of, it's just easier if I do it than to try to show them. And if you look at my parents and their generation, holy smokes, they were like, okay, here we go. I just got to make sure you're fed and that you haven't lost a limb. And there's something to that. There's something to that created the people that we are today. And if we're not careful, our generation is messing up the younger generation. And I'm 100% guilty of this. And I know we've talked about this in the past, is that I like to take care of people. I like to do things for people. I'm an acts of service, love language kind of guy. And so that's how I show love. The problem with that is so often is I do too much and I don't allow my kids to fail. I don't allow others to fail because I just want to see people be successful. Like that's my big desire. And I know it gets misunderstood by my kids that I just want to see them be successful. I want to see them thrive. I want to see them take advantage of the talents that God has given them. And the other part is just like the last episode that we did, is also find the joy in the little things. The problem that I'm finding is I'm taking away the little things that they need to figure out to find the joy. And if you do so much for someone, they don't know how to make decisions on their own. And that's a tragedy. Like I said, I'm guilty of that. And so we have to make sure that we nurture and not control, because that's where they can be discouraged. That can be where they're frustrated. Again, it's never too late to start. Yes. Would it have been better to do this when my kids are younger? Or if I'm in a relationship that I started earlier in the relationship? But you can ease into this if you've been too controlling, if you've been the bulldozer parent, not just the helicopter parent, but the bulldozer parent that's just trying to get everything out of their way. If you've ever been tempted, or you've actually called a teacher or a coach before you had your child encounter and have a tough conversation, this message is for you. You have to nurture. There's a time where we as parents have to step in, because our children just aren't equipped to have some of these conversations. They don't know how to say it, what to say. This is the nurturing part, not controlling part. Is if they don't do the work and they get a bad grade, you shouldn't, and you can't call the teacher and say, well, how can we get a better grade? Well, get them to do their work. So there's things that we have to make sure that we put ourselves in check. And this is why, if you have a feeling that stirs up, go to prayer quickly. Parenting is nurturing, not controlling. Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. So this is the nurturing part. And this is the part that if you guide them, and if you are explaining to them what they need to do and how they need to do it, does it mean that they'll never depart from it? I know it talks about he will not depart from it, or she will not depart from it. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to have challenges that come up because of this world and the pressure, and because we're human. The bottom line is if you've taught them right, if you've guided them correctly, you've explained the why behind certain things, and not just because I told you so, then when they stray, when they do something wrong, when they have a mistake, they'll know how to self-correct and course correct. Many times. Again, we're not perfect. We're going to fall away. We're going to have mistakes that we know we shouldn't have done. It goes back to the question that I asked my guests is, would you rather know the right answer or make the right decision? And again, my answer is always, I want to make the right decision, because too many times, because I'm human, I know what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. And many times I choose the opposite. And that can be difficult. Discipline, instruction of the Lord. Discipline equals loving guidance, not punishment. And this is one I actually underlined when I started this one, is discipline and instruction of the Lord. Discipline equals loving guidance, not punishment. How many times do we just flex to punishment? And yes, there are consequences to the things that we do. Does the punishment open the eyes of the offender? Does the punishment fit the crime, so to speak? Or is it the punishment just because you feel like there needs to be a punishment? That maybe the loving guidance is enough. Maybe the loving guidance puts you on the path that you need to go on. Again, we are given free will. Christ and God gave us free will. He will guide us, He will direct us, and it's our choice whether or not we follow that or not. The punishment often is already installed into not doing the right thing. Eventually, the punishment will happen, whether it's on this earth or in eternity, depending on what you're doing, is all part of that. So if you have someone shifting gears, if you have someone that is trying to get healthy, and every time they do something wrong or they don't eat something right, then they're punished. How long is that going to go on before they're like, you know what, just forget it? It's a challenge to my self-esteem. I can never get anything right. And that's what punishment often will do, is defeat and deflate the person. Again, doesn't mean that if there is a punishment that is necessary, that it has to happen. How often, though, could we just use loving guidance instead of just flexing to a punishment? So, Hebrews 12:11. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, if it produces a harvest of righteousness and a peace for those who have been trained by it. Let me read that again. Hebrews 12:11. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. And that's the balance. It's loving guidance, it's punishment, it's really just correction. And for me, many times, if I'm corrected, like, that's the discipline, that's the pain, because I so often don't want to let people down. Whether I know you or not, I don't want to let you down. And when I know that I left you down, like, that's punishment in and of itself. There's also times at work when we do things because we weren't prepared, and it's costly. Some of the best lessons learned cost us the most. And so that's where punishment is not absent. It's usually already installed into, if you don't do the right thing, you're going to feel the punishment. And that's where you've been trained by it. That's why failure is important. That's why nurturing is important, to explain the why. So when a child fails, when a friend fails, it's not pointing fingers, because we're not perfect. We're not Jesus. And it's essential that we explain, so that way later on, they feel that harvest of righteousness. They feel the peace that brings them of, I've learned from that. I've learned from the mistake. And many times it's just the pain of letting someone down. And I know I keep saying this, and I don't want people to misunderstand that I'm not opposed to punishment, because there's things that, again, need to be punished. I just go back to, for me, having a Christ-like value and wanting to keep that at the top of everything that I do just gives me context of how I should approach a situation. And many times, as a parent, as a friend, screaming and hollering does not do much for me. Yes, it might get my attention at first, but then if the person just continues to scream and holler, I'm tuning you out. But if there's nurturing, if there's caring, if there's explanation, if there's, hey, this is how we can do it better next time, that's how I respond. And again, everybody responds differently. So this lesson is in the context of how I approach things. So practical application for parents. And again, this is a lens of parent child, but this also could be just as a human. This is a practical application as a human. So when I say parent, it's because it's on the outline, but I want you to be able to substitute it for whatever situation you're in. And I know the majority of my listeners are parents, but you might not be in a season where this pops up as relevant, but it could at work, it could in friendships. So you just never know. So, as we've talked about different things in the past of how important the tongue is, watch your words. Proverbs 18:21. The tongue has the power of life and death. So this is where pray if you're angry and you have a lot of emotion before you approach a situation. Pray for peace. Pray for the Holy Spirit to speak through you and to use you as the mouthpiece, but don't allow your emotions to come through because that will not help the situation. That goes back to what we talked about, is that's provoking anger, provoking conflict. So balance discipline with encouragement. Don't just correct, also affirm. Model patience. This is James 1:19. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. So that's one that as a parent, that should be a plaque in your room that you look at every day. That should be the verse that we go to prior to approaching any situation. Again, whether it's a parent, a manager at work, friendship, is everyone should be quick to listen, 2 ears, 1 mouth, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. You control your thoughts. You take every thought captive. You are in control of your own emotions. That then will translate over to the other person. Now, you can't directly control how they're going to respond to the correction, respond to the conversation, but you can set the tone to allow the other person to hear you, to take it in, and then to move on. And then shift from control to guidance. Psalm 127, 3-4. Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him. Children are a gift. We are blessed. We talk about how often, how wonderful our children are, the gift that they are, that God gave them to us. We can't forget that. You take everything when you get them. You take the highs and the lows, and every single one of them are worth it. They're not easy. The lows are difficult. The highs are wonderful. And at the same time, when you're not in the high, then you just you forget of how great your kids are when it's not just all the ribbons, the plaques, the accolades that they may receive, but the everyday human that they're becoming. And that's what the nurturing is. That's what the lack of, if you're not guiding them, that you're not going to see and appreciate. And just like we talked about in the last episode about joys in the little thing, have joys of helping them, have joy of doing certain things that won't last forever. Case in point, I make my son's bed. So he's a senior in high school and he's going to be leaving and going to college soon. And I don't mind going up there making his bed because I know that soon that he won't be here. He'll be on his own, making, paving his own roads, cutting his own trails in life. And I won't have that opportunity to go up there and tidy it up. And he's not messy by any means. So I appreciate that. I take joy in that. Could I yell at him to make his bed? Sure. Is that going to be detrimental to his life later? I doubt it. There's plenty of people that don't make their bed. Alex Hormozy, he talks about, he contradicts the Navy admiral who says that, making your bed every day sets the course of your day. I don't disagree with that either. You just kind of have to balance, what do you need to do? Is it nurture? Is it guidance? Am I setting the proper example? My mom made my bed, and what it ended up doing is I appreciated how everything looked, how tidy everything was. and she never yelled at me to clean the room. That was just what she did. She liked to do it. And so I find myself doing that now without her. She laid the right example. She guided, she nurtured without yelling, without screaming, without saying, clean your room. Now, at the same time, some need to do that. It's just, you can see that there's disorder. And if they can start cleaning the room, that could be the path that they get to getting everything else in order. That could even be punishment. If their room's not clean, they do something that they shouldn't do, say, okay, well, before you can do anything else, that's what you're going to need to do. You need to clean your room, whatever it may be, whatever gives them time to think, calm down, and get things in order. So don't forget, as a parent, when it's tough, that children are a heritage. Children are a gift from the Lord. They're a gift. So here's an application for the other side. So if you're ever a recipient of correction, here's a great thing. And this is, again, I know my kids don't listen to this. And I don't think anybody under probably the age of 30 listens to this show. But it's still, if you think as a child, because we're all children, we'd all have parents, is the key thing is understand parents are imperfect. We're all trying our best. Now, again, just because you're trying your best doesn't mean you can't get better. Doesn't mean you can't learn and try to do the things that you need to do and learn new tactics of being a good parent. But we're trying our best. We're imperfect. We're supposed to show respect even when frustrated. This 2012, honor your father and your mother. You need to communicate your needs respectfully. And that's a challenge. A lot of young people don't know how to communicate, especially in this age that we live in of texting, is how do you communicate needs respectfully? Proverbs 15:1, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. So if you're on the recipient, how do you respond back? How do you control the situation to calm things down? If the other person's angry and they're providing feedback to you, how do you calm the situation down? Do you stir it up? Do you look away? Do you shut down? I do a lot of those things, but can you also say, I really appreciate the feedback. What are some additional things that you think I could do? Or, you know what? I hear you. I understand, other than the obvious, is there anything else that is making you frustrated with me? I don't know. I'm just thinking of different ways that you can respond. You control it, and you can see, again, you can't control how the other person reacts, but it's that E plus R equals outcome. O. So event plus response equals outcome. And that's an important math equation to think about, because in every aspect of life, the event plus how you respond will become the outcome. So the takeaway: correction without connection leads to rebellion. Our job isn't to break our kids' spirit, it's to build their strength. The other part that I would ask you is, how would Christ handle the situation? If Christ was sitting there and they were the ones needing to provide feedback to your child, feedback to you, how would he do it? I just want you to think about, how would he do it? The great thing is, we have plenty of examples in the Bible of how he did it. And so you can go there. You can see that. One of the most famous ones that I think most people recognize, and I love it from a correction standpoint, is here's this woman coming. He sees this crowd attacking this woman, in essence, because she's not faithful in her marriage and not faithful to how she needs to be presenting her body. And they're all wanting to kill her for what she's doing. And so Jesus just looks at everybody and says, he who hath no sin, cast the first stone. So I challenge you as a parent, why are you throwing stones at your child? Why are you throwing stones at others? So that's the challenge that he's giving you. Now, the person that he's correcting, she was probably inside thinking, yeah, he got him. He got him. Because there's no way that none of them are without sin. And so she was probably feeling super excited that now she's off the hook. But then he looks at her with maybe the most challenging loving response that he could give in the Bible. Go and sin no more. There's the correction. There's the love. He didn't yell at her. He didn't berate her. He didn't belittle her. He's like, yeah, same thing for them. Go and sin no more. Set a good example. Nurture, guide, correct, love, control your emotions to get the other person to listen. I guarantee you that woman, by hearing those words, go and sin no more, it's not that she didn't, but the hope is, and we don't know what happened after, is that that had so much impact and she felt so much of his love because he defended her, but then he challenged and corrected her on, know what you're doing is wrong. Stop doing it. Because if you don't stop doing it, I can't continue to protect you from these other people because you are doing wrong. And that's what we need to do. That's the love and the correction that Christ sends. And so it's my hope, my prayer that you guide without provoking, you discipline with love, and you build up the other person. You build up the next generation in his way, not our way. I hope each of you know that I love you. Thank you for listening. This is one of those lessons that I just have an immense amount of peace over and understanding, and it came at the perfect time. And all of these lessons do. The Holy Spirit is guiding and planning topics on my heart to share. And like I've said, it's hopefully good for you, but it's great for me. It's things that I need to know to be into control, to seek God, to be closer to him. And the closer I am to him, the more he rubs off on me, and I love it. And I think everybody around me loves it because I'm a better person for it. So don't forget, Jesus loves you. And if you have any desire to talk, to find out more about what it means to really follow Jesus, how to do it, I might not be the best equipped, but I would love to start the conversation. So if you have anything that is on your heart and you want to reach out. You can find me. You can shoot me an email at jeff@conqueritconsulting.com, or you can go to my Instagram, which is Jeff Forrester. But I'm here. I think it's one of those things that I want to be able to help you, to guide you, and at least connect you with someone who might be able to help you. So have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the Pathways to Greatness podcast. We hope that today's conversation inspired you to take steps towards your own greatness. Remember, every journey starts with a single step. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might benefit. Actually, share it with 3 people that you might think it might benefit. Until next time, keep pursuing your passions and carving your own path to greatness. Take care.